stage, silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn, because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today. Time's gone by, I've traded like dirt into clay. I thought
All right. Good morning. You are tuned into 1100 WSGI, and this is Lee Marie in for U-Turn Laverne on One Street Over. I am so glad you joined us today. Because we have a first time guest, and that's always super fun. All right, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you so much. You are so amazing, and you have such awesome plans for us. Thank you for just blessing us and keeping us safe. Thank you for taking this show exactly where you want it to go. We ask for your wisdom and your discernment, your perfect will and your perfect timing. We love you. We praise you. We surrender to you. We need you. In the mighty name of Jesus, amen. All right. Well, good morning, Mr. England. How are you?
Fine.
Good. So, first time guest. So I get to introduce you to Robertson County, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Although I know you have a lot of friends in Robertson County,
Correct.
but now we get to introduce you to, well, everybody, because people can also watch on the internet. And that is also a good reminder. Remember, I know a lot of you are listening on air on 1100, but we now have an app that you can watch it on your phone. So Android or iPhone, you can go to the WSGI app, or you can also go onto the WSGI1100.com website or on Facebook and YouTube WSGI. So go ahead right now, share this link, tell your friends, tune in because they're not going to want to miss a second of this. So we're going to get started now. Now, Simeon, England, right? Did I say that all correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, awesome. You have a very unique profession, professional blacksmith. Um, but I'm not gonna read this stuff because what you have to say is so much more interesting, I'm sure. So let's just dive into it. What exactly do you do, and how did you get into it, and all that?
Well, I'm a blacksmith, an artisan blacksmith. So the blacksmith would leave his work black. That's why they called it the blacksmith. The whitesmith would sometimes take that work and turn it into something that's more fancy.
Uh-huh.
So that's a lot of what I do.
Okay.
So I do say blacksmith just to get people really close, really fast.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of what I'm doing is embellishing some of that work more so. So most of what I do is make tomahawks,
Okay.
and in about a 250-year-old time frame. I
Oh
don't make
wow.
modern things. I make things that are based on history, and so
Mm-hmm.
we
And what
study.
years are you specializing in?
I like to do anything from 1720 to about 1780 or 90.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And one thing I did want to say early on in this interview, because I know I hear some people saying, "Well, I'm not really interested in old, weapons or blah blah blah." But guess what, homeschoolers and homeschool parents who are listening, he also goes and speaks to a lot of school groups. And he's got some very interesting things that he teaches, not only weaponry but other stuff. So we'll
Yeah.
we'll talk about that later. But I did want to tell people that right away because there's a lot of homeschoolers in this area, and so I know that they would be interested in meeting you and having you come to speak as well. So, but go ahead, go back to the.
Well, the study of history comes first.
Mhm.
The founding of this country is the most interesting era that I can find, and I
Mhm.
really love their mindset, their faith,
Mhm.
why they're doing it, what's in their head
Mhm.
whenever they're making the decisions and writing the documents.
Mhm.
So I like to find that out, but that also pours into the work that they're doing. Why is this made this way?
Mm.
Um, Not just that it is, not just that, but why? What's the
Mhm.
purpose of all of it? How it was made, and all of that. So
Okay.
so you asked me how I got started.
Yes.
I did happen to. That's the most popular question that I get.
Uh-huh.
When did I get started? And I'm going to show you. This is my grandpa's draw knife.
Oh.
He was born in 1898 in Sparta, Tennessee,
Mm.
White County, and he Dad said that he used to use that on horses and mules to on their hoofs,
Oh, wow.
but also on wood. And
Uh-huh.
he died in 1981 before I was 6.
Oh.
And I found this in my dad's workshop in the basement after we had cleaned everything
Oh,
out.
wow.
And if you notice, I can feel his thumbprints right there. And I
Oh.
fell in love with this tool at
Uh-huh.
about 6 years old.
Oh, my goodness.
And I asked Dad how to use it, and he put a board up in a vise and showed me how to use it on the board. And so I whittled the soup out of that 2x6
Oh, wow.
at about 6 years old. And I haven't ever looked back with working with my hands and connecting with a family tool.
Wow.
So that's something that's very special to me. And I still have, obviously, I still have the tool and I still have the board too.
Wow.
But the story that it tells, I was already connecting with the family line and the story that tells with the thumbprints and everything. So everything here tells a story,
Ah.
just like it did 250 years ago. That's telling a story that we just have to find it.
Mm.
It's out there. We just have to find what that story is.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the famous people have stories, but so do the people that we don't know their name.
Mm.
And why was this guy carrying that tomahawk?
Ah.
So that's what I'm really interested in is and in living history too. Chances are it'd be dressed much different and carrying some of this stuff. But matter of fact, this powder horn, I had a good friend of mine make me, and it says, "Dream of those who came before. They are calling."
Oh.
So that's the story. What did these people say? What are they looking to say?
Wow. Wow, this is heavier than I thought.
It's full of black powder.
Oh, okay. There you go. Here. Everybody can see that.
That's what we would call a powder horn. That's what we're loading the gun with.
Very cool. Awesome. Okay, and so you said everything has a story. Are there any particular people in history that you really follow and?
I really like Simon Kenton,
Okay.
who is a scout, and he's leading people into the frontier. If you think of Daniel Boone, he's contemporary with Daniel Boone, and he knows Daniel Boone.
Okay.
But he's here at a very young age, probably in his. So he left at 16, and he's out on the frontier as a teenager, essentially, and lives his life for 40 years, helping people get to the frontier.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So he's also about my size, so I identify with all of that.
Okay.
But I'm studying him. I'm always studying Simon Kenton.
Okay.
Yeah, Daniel Boone is one of the more popular ones, and Daniel is certainly out here doing some of the same things, but Daniel had a better publicist.
Yeah.
So more people know about Daniel Boone.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So did you want to talk about each of these instruments here? Or
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, if you'd like. This is an original pipe tomahawk. It's about 250 years old, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but you can see a couple of holes here that look sort of like a snake head.
Yes.
Whenever you see that. But this is designed and made to be a weapon, but it's also meant to smoke their tobacco. Okay, so what I tell people is I don't advocate smoking at all, but they don't know any better. Back then, just about everybody is doing something with tobacco because they have no idea what it's doing to them. So this is actually the pipe bowl.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And they would stick that in their mouth.
Okay,
and
so that's
smoke
what those holes are at that other end. Okay.
It's drilled all the way through too.
Oh,
So
I
it
see.
goes all the way through.
Okay.
So this is that's something they're carrying anyway with a tomahawk, and they just made one that they can smoke.
Ah.
Yeah. So
It's like you're all in one.
all in one, yeah. Sort of a multi-purpose tool. This is also just a weapon, and could be 250 or 60 years old, but it's called a spike. Both ends of that are meant to leave a hole in somebody, right? And so this is the study of these is why I make what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, why are they this light? And we can get into that. But here's one that I've made, and you'll notice the engraving on this. But you'll see, sort of why it's about that size.
Wow, no, this is really light.
Yes.
Wow.
Can you make out what it says?
Well,
I can read it. I can tell you.
I shall take no more.
Tea.
More tea. There it is.
No more tea.
Okay.
So what that means is we're done with England.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that, and there's some engraving like that on original tomahawks. One of them says, "To your arms, soldier, and fight." So we're talking about Rev War time period, and they're telling them, get ready.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got the snake that's chopped up into 8 pieces on the other side, and it says "Join or Die." So just fun things like that you can put on.
Did you say you made that one?
Yes, I made that one, and I also made this one. This is also a pipe. It's made from a gun barrel. So if you look down the bowl, you can see the rifling of the gun barrel. But all of this is silver. And then the engraving on both sides of that.
And you do the engraving as well?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So I start with a gun barrel and a piece of wood and whatever else silver that goes into it. And
I'm going to put this a little bit closer to the camera so people can see. Wow. Very good. Now, and I'm also, we were. Did you bring any of the rifles?
I didn't bring a gun, but I
Okay.
did bring a gun lock that I can show you how it works.
Okay. Yeah,
Would
we
you
were
like
watching
that?
the video last night with the long rifles, and my husband was like, "This is awesome." So I'm excited to tell you all that we do have Simeon booked to come to the November TFA meeting. So that is, of course, the Second Amendment for our county. Always meets on the second Monday of every month. And this coming TFA is going to be Colonel Chris Orndorff talking about getting prepared, because we're doing a lot of, prep series stuff right now. So that's going to be October 14th. I know some of our members were a little bit confused because yesterday was the 7th. So it felt like it was further into the month than it was. But that was the first Monday. So we actually had some folks show up at the American Legion last night and called us and said, "Where are you guys? You're late." We said, "Well, actually, you're early because it's not the second Monday yet." So so October 14th, next Monday, is the second Monday. And so that will be Tennessee Firearms Association. If you've never been, just know that at 6 p.m. we do a potluck dinner, and then at 6:30 is when our program starts. You're all invited. It's free admission. It's all ages. And like I said, Colonel Chris Orndorff is going to speak on October 14th, but we have Mr. Simeon England coming in on the second Monday of November. Do you know what that date is? I can look it up easily if you don't. Just because I want everybody to, mark your calendars right now. Okay, that's 11th. It's also Veterans Day. So, yes, we are going to be having the Tennessee Firearms meeting on that day, and you get to meet Simeon, and he will bring lots of stuff, including his rifles.
I'll bring a gun.
For sure, because that's what they're very much into. Anyways, but I'm so glad that you were able to come, beforehand, just to kind of introduce you to, the community and whet their appetite for your future presentation. Okay, so what's this here?
This is the lock of the gun, which is called the flintlock. Okay, and so this has got a piece of flint and a steel here, and I'm gonna, when you pull the trigger, this is what would go forward and start the ignition of the gun.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know if we needed to bring a gun on radio, but I guess I was wrong. So I'm gonna spark it, and you'll see the sparks that starts.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that spark ignition is what ignites the powder.
Okay.
So if you hear the term "keep your powder dry,"
that's
this is
why.
where it starts. Because if that powder right there is wet,
okay,
you have a heavy club.
Good to know.
And the term lock, stock, and barrel,
Mm-hmm.
this is the lock part of that portion. So the stock is the wood, and the barrel is the barrel. You have all the parts to make the gun.
Ah, okay.
So that's what that is.
The luck. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were watching the video last night, I heard Steven say lock, stock, and barrel.
Yep.
All
Yeah.
right. Very cool. Well, it's 7:15, so that means we need to do one of our sponsor breaks. So let's go ahead and hear from them right now.
Are you looking for answers in the real estate community? Barry and Rebecca Richards with Exit Prime Realty can give you the answers you're looking for. Maybe you're wondering if it's a time to buy. Is it time to sell? You're older. Is it time to downsize? Rebecca can specifically answer that question because she's one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist. So she's specifically trained to answer those questions. When it comes to selling, would you like to have a marketer on your team? Barry is a marketer. For 17 years, he was a vice president of a media marketing company in Nashville. Now he's a broker in Springfield for Exit Prime. Rebecca's office is an agency office up in White House. They combined the two to bring you Exit Prime Realty. Same great Exit team, just a new branch in the tree. No matter what your needs are, they specialize in Robertson County properties because they're from Robertson County. They've been here for nearly 30 years up in Cross Plains, but they're originally from Kentucky, so they also know the nuances of buying and selling in Kentucky and all the surrounding areas. Reach out to him today, Barry and Rebecca Richards, 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425. Let them know U-Turn sent you.
All right. And yes, that was U-Turn Laverne's voice, but no, she is not in the studio. She will be back next Monday. This is fall break. I hope she is enjoying that. She works so hard as a teacher now. So I'm glad that she got to take some time off to enjoy fall break. So I will be with you all week long. And don't forget, Wednesday, I'm here for 2 hours because I do One Street Over from 7 to 8. And then from 8 to 9, I do The Go Show, which is your source for information, inspiration, and always a few dates to add to your calendar. And in Robertson County, we always have plenty to add to your calendar. So I hope you'll join me also on Wednesday. And then this coming Friday is going to be a special edition Go Show because Wild Doc was unable to come on the first Friday of the month. And so we are having him this Friday. So make sure you tune in after One Street Over at 7 to 8. Stay on because from 8 to 9, we're going to have Wild Doc on. And again, if you have any puzzling medical questions happening right now, send him over to me. He loves to answer those, and we try to stump him. So you can send those to retrolimarie@gmail.com. Again, that's retrolimarie@gmail.com. And we will send those over to him, and he'll pick from there, and then you'll be able to hear him talk about your situation on air. So pretty cool. But we are back in studio now with Simeon England. He is a specialist in living history and in all this old weaponry. And also you got some other objects over here to talk about. Now, do you go to a lot of these like festivals and things like that? Like, I know that they have them.
Just last weekend, I was in West Virginia at an event at Prickett's Fort, and we did an event that's sort of reenacting Lord Dunmore's War, 1774, and that's when that fort was being built. It was 250 years ago, so we did that. There's other events that are just selling things that people like me make, and I do those too. So it's not only living history. I go to the shows too, where they're selling things.
Okay.
So,
And do you sell some of your items as well?
yes, primarily it's just tomahawks, maybe a knife or two. This one is not mine. It's a good friend of mine's, but I don't have one of mine. Most of my stuff is gone. But we don't just make weapons. There's people that they make blankets just like they did back then. This is a hat that is it's spun out of buffalo wool.
Really?
The lady spins it
That's all buffalo?
and then knits it, and it's so it's all buffalo wool, just like they would have done.
Wow. Very interesting.
And so yes, it's everything. And so I brought a journal just so, and I keep some of my presentations in here. But this is a journal. This is what they looked like. They would have had this marble kind of painting on them, and it's got some paper to look sort of oldish. But that's one of the guy's passion is he makes books like they used to.
Okay. Wow.
So any industry that you can find in the 18th century, we probably have somebody recreating that in living history, including the powder horns, making the horns. They were professional horners that were making powder horns and things out of horns. So a comb would be made out of horn. You heat it up. This is sort of like the 18th century plastic. You can heat it up and mold it into a spoon or mold it into a comb. It can be flat. It doesn't have to be round.
We need to bring more of that back, because that's one thing Wild Doc talks about is all the off-gassing from plastics and stuff.
Yeah.
And how we have too much plastic in our homes.
Yeah.
We need to start.
Yes. And there are a few dangerous processes that they have. I mean, making black powder is not very, but it's the closer that we can get to nature and what was actually already there, the better off we all are, and we're finding that out. Yeah. So this is a shooting pouch, which is everything I need to load my gun, and this is a professional leather guy that's doing this. So it looks something, and some of the women buy them for
Just being a purse.
yes, but this is something that everybody in the 18th century would know what they are.
Okay.
So, yes, you asked where I go. Sometimes, there's an event coming up this weekend, and it's at Wilderness Road State Park in Ewing, Virginia. And you think Virginia, that's really far away, but it's not. It's only 8 miles into the tip of Virginia. So 2 miles south is Tennessee.
Oh,
and
okay.
2 miles north is Kentucky.
Oh.
So there's a recreated fort there that's really amazing. And I'll be there in the blacksmith shop demonstrating. Friday is school days.
Okay.
So if somebody wants to go, wants to take a class at the last minute, they can call Wilderness Road State Park and get that organized. But
Now, when is this?
this weekend.
Oh, it's this weekend.
Yes, this
Okay.
Friday will be the school days, but they can bring you can bring kids or visitors are welcome the whole time.
Okay, so they didn't have to pre-register or anything; they could just show up.
They like to know how many school kids are coming.
Oh,
but
okay, if
they
there's
can,
a group.
Yeah, they can call and get that put in there.
And so, what all goes on at that?
Well, there's a couple of shops. There's really what we're doing is we're showing people how they lived. So it's a fort, and we're there. There may be people. There's a bake oven. There's people running the bake oven, how they would have cooking on the frontier. A lot of people say, "Where did you sleep?" And we say, "Well, right here, or right up." And they don't believe us. Like, no, really, you're going to eat that? Yes, we eat the food that we make there, and it's typical to what they made. So everything that we're doing there, I'm in the blacksmith shop. I'm making something. That's a big draw usually. So I can show processes of making a striker, which is the steel, how they would make a fire. Everybody in the 18th century would know how to make a fire. Even if they couldn't do it, they would have seen somebody do it. And so I make the little piece. I've got one here down in my bag I can get out, but I make the little piece in front of them to show the start and the finish of that one little bitty item that we think might be insignificant. But the idea is this. Can you imagine a time where you can't turn anything on? There's no buttons to push. There's nothing to plug in. There's nothing to charge. That's the time that we live in. And at the fort, there's no electricity down there.
Nice. So this event runs all day Friday?
All day Friday, all day Saturday, and part of the day on Sunday.
Do you know what the hours are by any chance, like how late it goes?
I'm pretty sure it goes 9 to 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
But we're there all weekend.
Okay.
Yeah. On Sunday, there'd be a church service.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very good. And do they ever have like camps like this where, like the kids can go and they just are, forced to do it, not forced to do this, but don't have anything around other than this, you know what I mean, for like a weekend.
Yeah, specifically for kids, I don't know of one that does that, but that's what the adults are doing.
Okay.
If the adults want, I do know that Martin Station has 1 month, on occasion, they'll have a month out of the year where new people can come that you don't have anything invested in this. You pay money. They help you get outfitted. then you look like us, and you come in and see what this experience is like.
Okay.
So that's a very successful, because this stuff, it can cost a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is almost this is about $270, I believe, and you don't have a gun yet. All you have is one part.
Mm-hmm.
So it can cost. But this event, you know, a lot of families come to that, and sometimes it'll be 3 or 4 people. Sometimes it'll be 20 people that come that want to experience what we're experiencing each weekend when we go out there and do that.
Nice. Yeah. You made me laugh when you were talking about how expensive some of this can be because, well, actually, this sticker right here, the Single Action Shooting Society, do you know about them?
I do.
Okay, I bet you do. But you have some friends in that, huh? And so sometimes they will joke and say it really stands for Single Action Shopping Society.
Yes.
Because like I know that we have gone to I haven't found a SAS yet. Well, I know that I think that there was one in Bowling Green. I don't know if it's still happening, but I still haven't gone to one in Tennessee. I've gone to them in other states, and I've gone to like their national one. And it's just so funny how there's just trailers and trailers of just clothes and, you know, just so much. I mean, yeah, you could spend a fortune getting all
Yes.
decked out and, you know, getting all the to look authentic. You know?
Yes, this event is essentially like going to the arcade that has a go-kart. You get to ride the go-kart for a little while. You get out, you go home. You don't have to buy the go-kart. You don't have to maintain it. You don't have to pay for the gas. You go borrow somebody's go-kart, have some fun, and then go home and decide if you want to invest in a go-kart.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So,
I know that even with SAS, they like you to have, you know, the carts. Have you seen some of the carts that they make?
yes, yeah.
Yeah, to carry all of the
All their gear and
guns and
accessories,
stuff,
yeah.
and then they have contests, you know, for the best carts, and some of them
Yeah.
are really decked out. Like
Yeah.
they have, you know, the chair and just all ornate as wood, all carved and stuff like that. But
And we have a similar. This is a fancy tomahawk. We have a similar show in Kentucky in August. It's called the Contemporary Long Rifle Association,
oh, okay.
and that's where we go and we try to bring the best of what we can do. So that's an indoor show. That's just a sales show.
Okay.
But there's a lot of things like this walking around, and like this knife, and some really good artisans that, you know, that like this guy specializes mainly just in knives. This guy specializes in leather work.
Oh, okay.
It's not the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same as me. I specialize just in tomahawks. I can make a powder horn, but it's not going to look this good.
Mm-hmm.
I can make a shooting pouch, but it's not going to look that good. So I stick to, you know, I've researched it. I like to research it, but once you get out too far out of your lane, there's other people that do a really good job at those things. So
Wow, that is so cool. So we're going to take another break right now, but while we do that, also we want to be able to give people some of the websites and different things so that they can find not only you, of course you, but then also maybe some of the festivals, how they can, you know, get plugged
Absolutely.
into that. So we can go ahead and do one of our sponsor breaks here while we get that information going. So let's hear.
This is the weekend you need to get out to the races. Veterans Motorplex, they're racing every Saturday night through October. Of course, weather permitting. That's why you need to follow them at Highland Rim Speedway. Follow them at the old webpage. Whenever they switched over to Veterans Motorplex, they had 19,000 followers, so they hung on to that old name. You'll find it on social media, Highland Rim Speedway, but that's where you check out what's happening at Veterans Motorplex. One of the best kept secrets in Robertson County, racing every Saturday night on a quarter-mile, high-banked asphalt bull ring, fun for the whole family. You can get out there. It's in Greenbrier, 6801 Kelly Willis Road in Greenbrier. Fun for the whole family. A lot of the students in the area, that's their first summer job. $40 ticket will get up to 6 kids and 2 adults in for one $40 ticket price. Can't beat that. Got a great concession stand. You're going to love getting out to the races. You see Jerry, tell him you turn Cincha.
Okay, I am back in studio with Simeon England and super excited. This is his first time here at WSGI. And remember, if you missed any part of this broadcast, just go ahead and go on the WSGI Facebook page or YouTube and pull it up and share it because lots of great information. I'm learning so much. In fact, I'm going on my phone right now and I am going to share this. I do see that we had some comments come in, so I better look and see what those are. There might be a question. While I pull that up, do you want to give some of those websites so that if people like, hey,
sure.
I want to get involved with this?
Something that's really pretty local here that's a really nice site is Bledsoe's Fort, and that's in Sumner County, but it's really close here. And you can, they've got a Facebook page. So the Facebook page is called Bledsoe's Fort Historic Park. And that the Bledsoe brothers they move here and they build a fort, and we know where the fort is. It's on that site. You can go see it. It's not, the fort is not reconstructed, but you can see where the fort was. There's 3 historic homes that are there. There's some very nice walking paths.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's a very neat park.
nice.
And their website is bledsoesfort.org. But some other sites in Tennessee are there's Fort Watauga, that's in Sycamore Shoals, that's East Tennessee, very important fort in the 18th century. There's Fort Loudon, which is also in East Tennessee.
Now, are those okay? Have you confirmed that they're still?
Yes,
okay.
I've been
Okay.
to these. Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, with the recent hurricane and all that.
Yes, Fort Watauga actually just opened up a few days ago.
Oh, okay.
They did have some damage to their walk trails, but they are okay, and it's back open. But those 2 actually have forts, and they have events going on where people like me dress up.
Nice.
So you want to look up Fort Loudon and Fort Watauga at Sycamore Shoals. There's Manskers Station, which is here in Goodlettsville.
Oh, yeah.
I don't believe they're currently doing any events, but that's a fort that's there that you can go see. They have a visitor center. Okay. All those places have a visitor center. I want to mention there's Boonesboro, Fort Boonesboro in Kentucky. It's not that far away, and Fort Herod. But Martin Station is the one that's the closest coming up that has an event that I can tell you about. Wilderness Road.
Is that the one this weekend, or that's
yes.
Okay? All right, Martin Station. Okay, very good. All right, well, looking on our Facebook page, we just had some people just saying good morning and great info. So, Deborah Grant, Paul Rainey, Jerry Suthergill, they all say good morning and good information and very interesting. So, thank you guys for watching and commenting. All right, so the militia.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about that of why some of these weapons are this light, this small, is because it is militia law that once you turn as an able-bodied male, once you turn 16, you're in the militia. You don't have a choice where maybe you want to go find yourself for a couple of years or take a break or you're in the militia, and you're required once a month to show up to a fort like I've been mentioning, to show the militia captain that you have the requirements, and the requirements are a gun, the powder, the equipment to shoot it. You need a knife and a tomahawk or a sword, depending on what year it is. The militia law changes, but from 16, sometimes a little less maybe, all the way up to 60 or maybe sometimes a little bit more, you're in the militia.
Wow.
So if the ages are right, and they often were, you could have a 60-year-old grandpa, a 38, 40-year-old dad, and the son could be 16 years old. So there could be 3 generations showing up to the same fort at the same time. But this is a requirement. And these militia laws are written before the Second Amendment. Okay, so in a modern discussion, we don't need to get to a Second Amendment argument, if that makes sense, because it's law requiring them to have those firearms and weapons already.
Interesting.
Because they're ready to fight. That's what America is, and that actually starts. That's a European idea. The militia is. It's a British idea of, we don't want to have to pay these soldiers the whole time, but we do want to have them. So they required them, and that got brought over early on That's before the French and Indian War, and it goes well into the 19th century also.
Okay.
So it's already law requiring you to have your weapons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So are there like, I know you have all the clothing and all the, do you live in a log cabin? Do you want to
No.
live in a log cabin?
I
Is that
want
your
to build a
goal?
log cabin on my place where I can go and be in a log cabin,
Yeah.
but I do like showers. Yeah. So no, I am on grid,
Okay.
but I do live a simple life.
Okay. But I bet you have some friends who are pretty hardcore, huh?
Yeah, I know a guy in the Ozarks in Missouri that actually built the first Mansker station that was built in the 80s. And when you go to his house, it looks a lot like Mansker Station.
Wow. Everything's
So,
period and everything.
yeah, I mean, he finally added a kitchen with running water and a bathroom to where he didn't. But he's retired now and likes those modern amenities now. So, but yes, there are some of us that really do. But for the most part, we can live back there. But all of us go home to a place where, because many of the people that do this do not do it for a living.
Right.
They do it outside of their job, so they have to go to work. They have to, just like most people do. Fortunately, me, I walk through a door and I'm at work.
Ah,
So
very, very
yeah.
good. So do you know like some like dads and sons and or some second generations and third generations that are passing all of this on to their kids and having them involved with it too?
Absolutely. Recently, I made a knife for David Wright, who's a very talented artist here in Gallatin, and he was pretty much responsible for getting Mansker Station made. But I made a knife. He buys a knife from a knife maker every year for his grandson, and he's camped with his grandson, and so his family is aware of what he's doing and has camped with him too. So it's a really neat. My daughter camped with me. It was a neat story at Martin's. I was, she was there. We're there, and there was a big commotion down. We had a battle, so there was a bunch of people down by the fort, and I'm looking, and it was done, and I couldn't find her. And she was 18, 19 years old at that time. She could, take care. But I'm still like, where's Brooke at? I can't find her. And I finally, she comes out of the shop where we were staying that weekend, and she had her fire kit, her flint and steel fire kit, and the lantern because it's getting dark. When she was little, her job was she was responsible for the candles to get them lit. So whenever that, she would see, okay, it's getting dark. I need to go light the candles.
That's awesome.
So she was still doing it, and she went out, lit a fire with flint and steel, lit the candle. So when she went into the Air Force at some point, and I asked her how the last week was called Beast Week, where they take them out to the woods or they're camping in this big tent or whatever. And I said, what was that like? She said, Dad, it was nothing, because all of those times had prepared her. They were in a tent. They had bathrooms. They were not as primitive as what she was doing when she was with me. So she had a blast.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm sure she was helping other people too.
She was, yes. Yeah, like, this is okay. We're going to make it. This
the
is.
other girls and whatever freaking out.
Yes, and I'm not saying it wasn't hard for them.
Yeah.
I'm just saying for her
Right.
at that particular time, because basic training is a lot of mental as well as physical too. But she really had a preparation to go into something hard because she had already done something harder, and that's something that I really like. We enjoy disconnecting from all of this.
Right.
We like to get away, and we don't use these things. There's pictures that are taken and things like that, but we enjoy the disconnect, get away from all of what we're normally tied to. It's a simpler time, and we like to go back there.
Right. Definitely. Well, I know that you said you also speak to groups. Do you are you familiar with, is it Trail Life? It's like a Boy Scouts, but it's like a Christian version that's kind of a new.
Okay, I've not
No.
heard of that.
Oh, okay. I want to have them on because I just had heard about them. But do you speak to like Boy Scout groups and different groups like that, or is it mostly homeschooled that you've been?
I'll speak to anybody that,
Okay.
yeah. But if there's something that there's youth involved,
Mm-hmm.
that's the line that I normally use is think of a time where you can't plug anything in. That really sort of, well, wait a minute, everything I know of can be, so much is electrified and plugged in. So that's the way I kind of get them back to where the time frame of what we're doing. So then the questions come. Well, how do you start a fire? How do you eat? How do you? And then you get to explain all of those things. Yeah.
Now I heard, and I'm not sure if it was this from you or from our mutual friend, but was talking about how you also will do some speeches kind of on just kind of like manning up, type of stuff.
Yeah. In Boston in 1770, there was one British soldier per 8 colonial Americans in Boston.
Wow.
That's how many soldiers the king had brought to Boston to get them to straighten up. And that's why they were bucking the system. And those soldiers, you remember, you could get a knock on your door when you're getting ready to go to bed, and there's a half a dozen soldiers that say, we're going to come in, you need to feed us, and we're going to sleep in your bed tonight. You can't lock your door. So what would you do? That's the question
Right.
that I often ask of, this is why all of this gets started, is they're taking over, they're doing what they want. If you're a dad and you have young kids in your house and you need to go to work the next day, those soldiers are still there when you wake up. You don't want to go to work. You want to protect your family. So those soldiers, that king over across the water is disrupting our way of life. He's forcing us to buy a certain kind of tea. And I don't know about you, but I like to buy whatever kind of tea I want to drink, not have it forced on us for them. So these people are used to manning up and saying, wait a minute,
No
that's
doubt.
not what we want to do. And the masculinity side of that is, no, I shall take no more tea. And we're going to join or die. We're going to join together, or we're going to die fighting your rule. That's a different thing than what most of us feel
Right.
today. So yes, it's very much a man up. Where are your principles, and how much do you believe in your convictions? When people talk today about they're going to take our guns, maybe not.
Yeah.
Not so much, and so where is the line that you're willing to draw? They were willing to draw it up until death. And that's why we have a wonderful country today, because of that fight. Otherwise, we would be speaking the King's English still today, right here.
So were you, even as a kid, were you always interested in the founders, or did that just come after,
I was interested in history. I was interested in this part of history and on the frontier and all of that. The founders came a little bit later, and I can tell you that my history teachers did not know and would be completely surprised about all this, because history class is learning dates and names, and I don't do well learning dates and names, believe it or not. But I do love the story. And so I was very interested in history, even though my report card may not have reflected that very well. So yes, it has been something that I've always felt grounded somehow. I don't know how else to say it, but
Okay, well, good to know. And then, did you want to talk at all about the founders and about kind of their closeness with God, and because I know that you are a Christian, so did you want to talk about any of that? This is a Christian station, so
sure. The founders, all of them were going to college, and the colleges back then were basically training ministers. So there's a lot of people, there's a lot of information out there that think that everyone is a deist, and especially Jefferson, who writes in a later document, it's not in the Constitution, about separation of church and state, um, but um, they all definitely know of a living Creator, God, and they know Him. And in their writings, I mean, that's one of the jobs of the Supreme Court, is to study the founders and what they would have said on a specific subject. It's not um, to decide their own decision. It's what would the founders think about this modern thing. And so we have their writings, and they can be studied.
Okay.
They're fascinating people.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Awesome. Such great information. All right, we're going to take one more break before we go because we only have about 10 minutes left. But you all have been listening to Simeon. I always want to say Simon, but it's Simeon.
Yes.
I'm sure you get called Simon, don't you?
That's the most popular. Yeah.
Simeon England. And I'm going to also share his page on my Facebook page so that you can easily find that. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Join me, Lee Marie, every Wednesday morning, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on WSGI for The Go Show, your source for information, inspiration, and always some dates to add to your calendar. And every first Friday, we try to stump the wild doc, so keep sending in those puzzling health questions. You can email them to retroleemarie@gmail.com. Again, that's retroleemarie@gmail.com. All right, we are back in studio with Simeon England. So much great information, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him come to the TFA in November. That will be November 11th, Veterans Day. He will be speaking at the American Legion in Greenbrier, so you can meet him in person and bring your questions or whatever. You might have some old stuff from your grandpa that you might just want to bring in and show him and have him talk about it. That would be fun too. This month, October 14th, which is actually a week from yesterday. That's right, because today's the 8th. You can come to the TFA at the American Legion in Greenbrier, and we are going to have Colonel Chris Orndorff. I know a lot of you are fans of his, and he will be doing some, get prepared type of information, because we like to do that at least every other year. We do some prep stuff. So just to kind of give you stuff to think about and to remind you about, storing up on certain things. And, I always tell people I try to have at least 20 gallons of water, just in case water gets contaminated or something like that. You can sure go a lot longer without food than you can go without water. So make sure you got your water. But yesterday on One Street Over, we had Colonel Jeff Allen, and he talked about a lot of food storage things that he had just come back from a weekend seminar learning about. And so that's just great information. You just want to be prepared for whatever can happen. And I love the skills that we're learning here. So this could also be stuff that you would add to your prepping regimen. All right, we are back with only about 9 minutes left. So I know you got some more gadgets you just pulled out. So so let's hear about those.
Yeah, well, and you were talking about food. We know how to smoke the fish, the meat, things like that, to preserve it. And one of the things to preserve meat and hides is salt. And this is, most people know what that is. That's just a little gourd that I've bored a hole in the top and hollowed it out, and that carries my salt.
Be darn.
So in the 18th century, and past, they're getting salt from salt springs. If you notice a lot of, especially in Kentucky, a lot of the names are called lick. You'll have Salt Lick or Red Lick or Blue Licks, or that's a known salt spring in that area. That's why some of those names are, there may be a town name. There's a ton of them in Kentucky. I'm not sure how many are that way here, but there's salt springs that are coming up out of the water. And so they take that water and then boil it down and get salt out of it. So that is, Daniel Boone gets captured one time on a salt boiling trip. He and a bunch of men that he's taken out, they're boiling salt, and the Indians surround them and capture them. But this salt is actually I was at an event at Natural Tunnel State Park in Virginia, and they boiled this salt.
Oh, really? That
So
is
this is salt from
okay.
that, from boiling in a kettle over an open fire. Um, that's where we got that salt. So
Wow.
that's how they're getting it. We don't need to go to the ocean.
Mm.
Nowadays, most of those salt springs are the water table has lowered because of so many wells and people pumping them, so they're
Oh,
not active anymore.
okay.
You know, but they're still there. If the water table would go up, it would still
Mm.
come back out.
Okay.
But there's a place in Virginia called Saltville, Virginia.
Hmm.
That's where we got that water to do that.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to show you. So let's see. I wanted to show you the flint and steel, and this is the steel similar to what I would make at the fort to show, and this is a piece of flint. So you have the same two things in the gun lock,
Mm.
but
Ah, okay. All right.
there's the spark.
Nice.
And what we would do is we would char cloth
Okay.
or wood, charred punk wood, just making a mess, and that would catch that spark. And from that, you just have this little bitty glowing ember.
Mhm.
From that, you can make a fire that, if you're not careful, will burn the forest down.
Mm.
So if you want to talk about the beginning,
Mhm.
like the seed, of an acorn, what can, I've pondered what can an acorn do? It's infinite.
Mhm.
One acorn can make another tree to make more acorns, which can just keep going. I
Mhm.
mean, that's the beauty of our,
Right.
our creator. So that little, and it can be hard to learn. This
Mhm.
can be, you
Mhm.
can't just bang it in there and get
Uh-huh.
this. Some people have a really hard time
Do you
with
sell
this.
little kits?
I do.
Oh,
Yep.
that's
I sell
cool.
them. Yep. But my dad taught me growing up, any job worth doing is worth doing well.
Mm.
And you see that in
Okay.
scripture too,
Mhm.
with whatever you find your hands, whatever your hands find to do it unto the Lord.
Mhm.
So it's worth struggling.
Mhm.
It's worth it instead of just uh, pushing buttons.
Mhm.
At events, I'll show people this, and the boys will, and some of the girls too. Yeah, we know what that is, and I say they know it from a game. There's flint and steel on, I think it's Minecraft or something. So they know the concept of this, but they've never done it.
Oh.
So we want to sort of get them back into, well, let's
Mhm.
try this. Let's see if you can. And then once they accomplish a fire, that feeling of achievement,
Mhm.
that's something I can actually do this. If there's no more matches or there's no more lighter, we can
Mhm.
still have something where we can always start a fire.
Now, is that little kit one of the more popular things when you sell things? Do you like sell a lot of those?
For me personally, no.
No?
For me, the tomahawks. I mean, I think I'm
Okay.
somewhere around a year and a half or 2 years out on a tomahawk if you ordered one. So that's me. But there's other people that make these kits,
Okay.
and yes, that is more popular.
I would just say that that's like such an immediate, useful thing.
It is, and everybody that I mean, really from about age 6, historically you'd know how to do this, and probably we're at least struggling at it to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So I woke up one night and it was completely dark. And this was in the woods,
Mm-hmm.
completely dark. I couldn't see my hand.
Wow.
And I started a fire in the dark with this kit, with this setup. So you can't see anything. Imagine doing that, maybe with a welder glasses or something on.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing that I saw was the spark. It took me about 45 minutes to get that fire going, but I struggled and got it going.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some times in life where
Yeah.
you don't get the reward unless you have an attitude that I'm not going to give up until this happens.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. All right, what's that other gadget?
This
Yep.
this is. They also had these.
That's a cool little pouch. Who makes those pouches?
I made the pouch for this.
Ah.
But that is exactly what it looks like. It's just a magnifying
Magnifying
glass, and it that's in my fire kit.
Oh, okay.
So
Mm-hmm. Oh, because you can use it to
Yes.
with the sun.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't use this when it was dark.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Gee, why not? Yeah, totally get that.
Yep.
Very cool. And then, so it's good to have those two little flint pieces there, along with the little stuff that you know for sure will burn.
Yes.
And you just
Yeah.
need to have that always close by.
This is key to the fire, because if you can just make the sparks, but you don't have something
Mm-hmm.
to catch, it almost be like playing baseball without a glove. If you don't have something to catch the spark,
Mm-hmm.
you're in trouble.
And do you just leave it all like that in that little case and just
Yes.
try to light that on fire?
I'll pull out what the spark has landed on,
Oh, okay.
and then that gets made into the fire.
Okay.
And I only pull out what I need. There's more in there than what I need.
Oh, okay.
But every fire can make more of this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I can get spongy wood that's out in the woods and char it like this and put it back in there, and it will catch a spark too for the next fire. So you can keep going. Always looking ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Always looking to
Awesome. Very
protect
cool.
yourself and looking ahead.
All right, so we only got a couple minutes left. I'll check one more time. Oh, yes, here was a question that had come in. When you were talking about the militia and how the guys had to go starting at age 16 once a month. Was that just the men, or were any ladies involved of that at the time?
There were no ladies involved in militia law.
Okay.
There are ladies involved in war
Mm-hmm.
and in fighting,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're out and your house is getting attacked,
Mm-hmm.
the women need to know what's going on too.
Mm-hmm.
And so the young girls would see all of this going on, dad or brothers making their own lead balls.
Mm-hmm.
They would know how to load the gun. They would know how to shoot the gun, chances are.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lead ball that we make in a mold. So they would know how to do this stuff.
Okay.
It's just that when it came time to fight on the frontier, and there are a few examples of women fighting in those ways, but the militia law only required the men.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, we are almost out of time. So why don't you give your contact information again for those
Sure.
of people that are just tuning in?
My website is Simeon England SimeonEngland.com.
Okay.
That's the website, and from there you can find contact information.
Now, I know you sent me a cool YouTube video. Is the link to that on your website?
I believe it is, but you can also search, and my first name is spelled Simeon. It's just like
Like it sounds.
just like and it's just like the one in the Bible. So, and England is just like the country. So you can search YouTube. There's other videos than the one that I shared with you on there.
Yeah, that was a real good. And then your email looks like Simeon England 1770 at gmail.com.
Yes.
So again, his email is Simeon England 1770 at gmail.com. But yeah, you can go ahead and go to his website. Again, it's SimeonEngland.com, just SimeonEngland.com, and you can see he's got lots of things up here. Oh wow, yeah, lots of media and different things that you do. This is great, awesome. Well, I am so glad that you were able to join us today.
Me too.
Is there anything else? We have like 30 seconds.
Search out history. There's a lot of fascinating things. I encourage homeschoolers. I'm always a proponent of the homeschooling. So
Good. And you're very eager to go out and speak with them, right?
absolutely,
Awesome.
they ask the best questions.
They ask the best questions. Excellent. Awesome. All right, y'all. Well, we are officially out of time, but I am so glad that you joined us today. I will be back tomorrow, and tomorrow is Wednesday, which means I will also have the Go Show, which there's so many things coming up in Robertson County for fall, and there's even some Christmas stuff already that you're going to want to get onto your calendar. So I'm so glad that you guys joined us, and I will see you tomorrow. This has been 1100 WSGI.
One street over there's a life I could have known.